Alright, I've posted a lot of humorous videos on here, just random videos and stuff, but tonight I want to address something that is serious. And I'm going to give my opinion. So if you're allergic to people's opinions, now is the disclaimer to go ahead and leave the website, okay? If you don't like my opinion, don't threaten me. Don't do anything. Right now, I'm telling you, I'm expressing my opinion. I'm an American. I have freedom of speech. And if, I have the right to freedom of speech. You don't have the right to not be offended. Some countries you do, America you don't. So if you don't like what you're going to hear, then go ahead and leave. If you're watching, okay, and you don't like what I'm saying, okay, then stop the video and leave. Okay, you don't have to listen to what I say, but I have a right to say it. And that little disclaimer there is getting right into what I'm about to say. I've thought about this very carefully for the past few days. Okay, there's a church in Florida that is going to burn 200 Korans. All right, they canceled it because the imam or whatever you call it, the Muslim priest in New York said, we'll move the mosque from the World Trade Center site. Alright? And then they told everybody, no, we did not say that. And so the pastor said, well, you lied, so we may still do it. There have been hundreds of protests around the world because this church is going to burn the Koran. Okay? I have friends who are Muslim. They're good people. They're decent people. They would not hurt anybody. Okay? On one hand, burning a Koran or a Bible if their intent is to offend the whole religion, I think that's wrong. That's the wrong way to go about it. Okay? Jesus didn't go around, they're Christian. Jesus did not go around burning other people's books, The only time he actually got semi-violent was when they were disgracing the temple because they were selling stuff and they were robbing people, and he took a whip and took care of business because it was his father's house. So I don't condone their actions in any way. However, on one hand, I do have to say that people say the government should stop them. Okay, Iran says the government better contain the people. Well, I have a message to Iran. The government cannot contain the people because the government is not in charge of the people here. The people are the government, and we select the government from amongst ourselves. Okay? And I'm kind of torn on this, so I'm going to express it this way. If they want to burn the Quran, even though I disagree strongly, and a lot of Americans disagree strongly, and the rest of the world disagrees strongly, they have the right to, because here in America, we have freedom of speech. Alright? If somebody wants to stand on the corner and holler out the most insensitive, racist, tyrannical, sorry, it's late and I'm not thinking of the words here, rants, they have the right to, because in America, we have freedom of speech. Okay? One thing that enrages Americans is when people try to tell them they can't say something, because we take it for granted. This is our country. We have the freedom of speech. If it offends other people, they do not have a right not to be offended. That is nowhere in the Constitution. Okay? But in the Constitution, it does state that every American has a right to dissent, to state their opinion, no matter how unpopular it is. You can't tell one person you have freedom of speech as long as certain people like it, and tell somebody else, oh, I'm sorry, you don't have that same freedom. because it upsets people. Everybody has an unconditional right to their own opinion. Now, there are limits to that, okay? Let's say somebody can't stand the president and says, well, he should be shot. Okay, that's their opinion. They have a right to say it. Now, on the other hand, if they say, well, I'm going to go kill the president, well, they're making a viable threat. You know, if this pastor said, we're going to go murder a bunch of Muslims, well, then he could go to jail for that because he's threatening somebody else. He's invading on their right to live. Okay? Right now, this pastor is invading on their right not to be offended. That's not a valid excuse to suppress his opinion. I want to put it to you this way, okay? How important is freedom of speech? I was talking to my friend Jose tonight on the ride home. And I want you to think about this. Hate speech is not good, but people have a right to hate if they want. We can't say, you're not allowed to hate, you'll go to jail. That's outrageous. You'll be fined if you hate. You have a right to your opinion. The government cannot tell you to keep your opinion to yourself. Now think about this. Somebody nowadays who supports Hispanic or Mexican equality, okay? They'll be cheered and stuff, and everybody will cheer for them. And if somebody today goes out and says we ought to ship all the Mexicans back to Mexico. I'm not saying this, I'm using this as an example, so please do not twist my words, okay? You know, I have Hispanic and Mexican and Muslim friends, all right? And they're some of the greatest people in the world. They do anything for anybody. So I have no problem, but I'm just using this as an illustration. But if somebody is racist against Mexicans, and he starts standing on the street corner, yelling obscene things, and, you know, saying stuff like, ship them all back to Mexico or stuff, that could be considered hate speech. And if those of us who favored equality said, we need to suppress his opinion, he's offending people, and we fine him or arrest him, the government does, they have just set a very dangerous precedent, and this is why it's dangerous. Because by doing that, the government has stated, if we or the majority of Americans do not like what you have to say, we have the right to order you to stop stating your opinion. If you don't, we can punish you. Okay, it's like that in Canada or Europe and other places where you don't really have a right to your opinion if it's not a popular opinion. In America, if that were to happen, I want you to picture 50 years in the future. Let's say the drug war in Mexico spills over the border. Okay? Hundreds of Americans start getting killed. People start getting scared. Okay? And out of that fear, people elect people who discriminate against Mexicans, for instance. Okay? The flip side to that is, yes, it may be construed as a good thing to limit, quote-unquote, hate speech and keep people who have bad opinions from expressing them, but what happens 50 years from now when out of fear they may elect a government that says we're going to crack down on the Mexican drug wars, and you know, they get elected and then they start saying, if you speak out in favor of them, you're going against the United States, and that's considered illegal speech. And then if you speak out in favor of equality, the tables could have flipped because they have already started a precedent to where they can limit speech if it's unpopular. The Founding Fathers created the Bill of Rights that included freedom of speech so that no matter how unpopular your speech is, they cannot limit it. I'm going to stop here because it's almost to the 10-minute mark and I'll continue.